That sounds perfect. It sounds like exactly what I want to do. I'm helping them, and I'm trying to give them the best chance at life and putting them back right where they belong.
I do have a lot of the history that's come down through my family and kind of that sense of belonging to the land out here and wanting to, maintain, protect, and restore as best we can in light of the onslaught of development.
Yesterday, driving home from work, there was a bald eagle sitting on the Osprey platform on Montauk Highway there. Honestly, everybody just drove right by. Nobody paid attention, but I posted that picture this morning, and everybody got super excited. Oh my God, eagles! Nobody saw that eagle because no one was paying attention. I think that's the biggest part, is to get people to open their eyes and just appreciate the stuff that's here.
Continuing our Forces of Nature coverage here on WLIWFM, WNET Group Special Collection, exploring issues affecting our natural world and sustainability with community leaders, experts, artists, and viewers like you, donating to WLIW.org/radio. Welcoming to the WLIWFM studio, the Peconic Baykeeper, Pete Topping, Fish Guy Photos, Chris Paparo, Assistant Director for Southampton Programs and Marine Sciences Center Manager at the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences, and Evelyn Alexander's Wildlife Refuges, Grace DiNatale with Flower the chicken.
She is here today. I did bring. She's fast asleep.
Oh, because she was hearing you talk.
Yeah.
All right, so we got to start with Flower, which it turns out I'm the odd man out this morning. I'm the only one who doesn't yet have chickens. You guys all have chickens?
Yeah.
Is Flower your chicken?
No, she's not. I'm fostering her right now. She is a rescue. She was found on the side of the road. Clearly was raised by somebody. Mm-hmm. Hence, she's falling fast asleep in my hands right now. So,
when was she found?
Just a couple days ago, actually.
Wow.
She checked out. Her health-wise, she's totally fine. But yeah, she needs a home and she needs a house because this is less of a chicken and more of a chihuahua that belongs in someone's purse.
Purse chickens.
So
yeah,
are purse chickens common?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think Flower is extraordinarily special.
Yeah.
She's a bantam, which I have heard tend to be very friendly. I've never met anyone like Flower, though.
All right, so we're going to get into the water with Pete and Chris, but let's stay on land for a moment and talk a little bit more. First of all, for folks who might be interested in homing Flower, how can they get in touch with you guys over at Evelyn Alexander?
Evelyn Alexander.
Wildlife Refuge.
Wildlife Rescue Center.
Rescue Center.
It's a mouthful. We're located on 228 West Montauk Highway. If you ever find injured wildlife, that's where you can bring it, on the East End. But so if you're interested in Flower, we do have a couple of prospective homes, some really wonderful people who have, quote, said they would treat her like a queen. But you can always email us. Our email is located on our website. You can also call us. I believe the number would be 631-728-WILD. So you can call us if you're interested, leave your information, and we would reach back out to you.
Is that also what we should call if we find
So I should specify, we are a wildlife hospital. We service the wild animals of the East End, but sometimes in the wintertime, when the people and the animals have both kind of traveled to elsewhere off the island in the winter when it's much slower, we'll sometimes open our doors to specific domestic situations that we feel like we could be the most helpful to. So that's how Flower came to be, and every once in a while we do it with some other interesting creatures.
A not so nice fact that I think you were talking to me about last time we had a conversation is sort of the high cost of care for our birds and instances where the animal cannot be helped. Does that happen?
Absolutely. I think that there is a very large difference between the things that a wild animal can tolerate versus the things that a domestic animal can tolerate when it comes to medical procedures. When taking care of a wild animal, they are fully aware that they are constantly surrounded by predators doing things to them of which they have no idea. We can't communicate with them. When you're taking care of someone's pets, they do at least recognize that you're not a predator. You're not a threat for the most part. So that's something that you definitely have to keep in mind. The things that you can put a wild animal through are not necessarily exactly the same. And then you also have to consider the life that they will be living once they leave your hospital.
Right.
So a pet has your care forever, and that's the way it should be. But if you had, a Canada goose come in and they need to be able to travel thousands of miles south and north every single year, twice a year, that is a lot of weight to carry, and it's something that you have to consider.
Right.
They have a lot to do when they leave our hands.
Right. And so, Evelyn Alexander, your goal is to rehabilitate and release.
Absolutely.
But certain animals cannot be released and stay with you guys. Do you have a number of animal mascots, ambassadors?
Yeah, we do. We have an education program. Actually, had a message from Tammy and Meep to say hello to you. Because I believe you guys saw each other not too long ago. Meep is our great horned owl resident.
Yes.
So she was brought in. This was long before I was here. She's older than I have been working there, but she came in very young as an owlet, and she ended up being imprinted because she was all alone, and so they decided to keep her as an animal ambassador.
I know that there was an animal ambassador groundhog. Was that at Evelyn Alexander?
Yeah, so a lot of places actually do have them, but we have Alan. So unfortunately, I hate to say this now, but we lost Alan just a couple of weeks ago.
That's why I'm bringing him up.
Yeah, he was the happiest groundhog I'd ever known. I had a lot of pride in the fact that we could. He was happy to be held and to meet new people, and he was a really special soul. So yeah, we lost him. I would love to thank our vet, Dr. Johnston. She works at Hampton Veterinary Center, and she was there every step of the way helping us make the right decisions for him. And I can see everywhere I go, when they know where I work, they ask about him. So he touched a lot of people's lives.
And just to finish up, tell us a little bit about how you came to Evelyn Alexander and your story a little bit.
So I guess I've always worked with animals. I always knew that was something that I wanted to do, but you hear that all the time, I guess, and this place is very unique. I worked on a farm for a long time.
Which one?
It's a fiber farm located in Yaphankum. It's really small. I raised llamas and sheep on a woman's very small property. But after a long time doing that, I felt that I wanted to give and not take. I didn't want to exploit animals for anyone's gain at all. I wanted to give them everything that we had been taking from them for hundreds of years. So I spent a little time searching, looking for something that felt right, and then I think the universe has a way of hearing you when you need it the most.
Does.
My two best moms, my actual mom and Delaney's mom, my best friend, Catherine. They both messaged me a job opening for Evelyn Alexander. They needed hospital staff. I thought, that sounds perfect. It sounds like exactly what I want to do. I'm helping them, and I'm trying to give them the best chance at life and putting them back right where they belong. Yeah. And the rest is history.
Lastly, you touched on something very briefly. When it comes to finding animals, we need to make sure that we are approaching them or not approaching them in an educated way, which is why we gave the phone number 631-728-WILD.
Yeah.
Do not, especially if it's like a bird of prey or something, talons be sharp.
Yes, true.
Do you guys offer periodic educational workshops at Evelyn Alexander?
We do, yeah.
Yes.
We have rescue and transport classes all the time because we work mostly with volunteers. So Yeah, we will have some of our staff members put on classes on basically exactly how to do just that. The safest way for both you and the animal to get them to our hospital quickly, swiftly, and with as little stress as possible.
All right, so we're going to get into the water now. We'll start with Peconic Baykeeper. It's approaching its 30th anniversary?
Let's see. Yeah, about 27 years. Actually, it'll be, I think, 28 years in 2026.
Now, you...
But not me.
Your family has been on the East End for generations.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how this has informed how your life has unfolded.
Yeah, so I actually did a deep dive into genealogy last winter. And it turns out my first ancestor was Captain Thomas Topping, who arrived in Southampton in 1650. There's actually a historical land purchase called the Topping Purchase, which was a lot of property in western Southampton. He was here for a while, kind of went back to Connecticut, but left the next generation here, and we've been sticking it out ever since. So it's really, for me, it's there's topping paths and topping ways, and there's topping farms. Of course, I don't have all that property that my ancestors once did, but I do have a lot of the history that's come down through my family and kind of that sense of belonging to the land out here, and just wanting to maintain and protect and restore as best we can in light of the onslaught of development and everything else going on in the world.
Yeah, everyone has this desire to remain, but I feel like you take it to the next level by protecting and restoring. Can you talk about some of the work and the vibrant community of people watching our waters out here and legislation that has led to and through this current moment in time?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty undeniable that the East End, whether it's the economy, the recreation, pretty much the reason why we're all here, whether directly or once removed through employment opportunities, it's all tied to the water. So it's we have groundwater, we have the aquifer that's beneath Long Island, which is the sole source of drinking water for Long Island. Extremely important for everyone to know. As you put chemicals and fertilizers down on your lawn, that's going into your drinking water. And we also are surrounded by, we have some of the most beautiful ocean beaches in the world, but we also have some of the most beautiful estuaries and embayments in the world. So we work on kind of the local level. Sometimes it's legislation, sometimes it's a project. These, for instance, in East Quogue now, the former Dockers property, they want to tear that down and put in 25 condominiums. So we're going from a seasonal restaurant that was built when prior to existing legislation, wetlands were filled. So we lost the buffering capacity of the wetlands.
Let's talk about how important that is.
Yeah, it's extremely important. They're often referred to as the kidneys of the estuary. Not only the kidneys, but also the nursery for juvenile killifish. We have horseshoe crabs that breed in the upper areas of the wetlands sometimes, and along the shoreline, it's a pit stop for migrating waterfowl. So every little bit, has far-reaching implications. And so what kind of kills me, we have again, this goes back to my history, grandfathering, right? I can say, 10th generation grandfathering. Grandfather was not always right. People used what they knew at the time. There were a lot fewer people here.
Right.
And there are plenty of cases where something's been grandfathered in, like the current restaurant property. And my opinion is if you tear that down and it's clean slate, you should be subject to modern regulations.
Right.
And so there's always this kind of pitting between, what's the property owner's rights, what do they want to do to make a profit, versus what are the rights of the environment, and especially that area now. We have, that Dune Road is probably one of the most problematic spots on the East End with regard to coastal flooding, as I'm sure Chris can say. If you go over the Ponquag Bridge in Hampton Bays and you make a right sometimes, there are times where it's 1 to 2 feet of standing water on that roadway. So there's really no rational reason why we should be developing or furthermore redeveloping and increasing development in some of these areas.
Yeah, what are the implications of looking the other way? Really? I guess this is a nice place to move into the water because, water testing, updating infrastructure, that's only part of the puzzle here. And another part is supporting wildlife, like filter feeders, reestablishing marine grasses, all that good stuff. Chris, you spend an enormous time under the waters with your camera and with your person. So let's talk a little bit about some of the biological aspect of this. I know you're one of the four musketeers that kickstarted SOFO's shark research and tagging program. I know that was about 10 years ago, as well as Geek Talk, which you've been doing for about 10 years. Which one came first of all?
About the same time.
About the same time.
Yeah, because I think the first kind of, when me, Greg, and the group started catching sharks like consistently, it was around 2015 or so. So that was right kind of when I started the Geek Talk, it was same summer. Yeah.
All right, and so let's talk about building upon Pete's point and adding in some of our friends from under the water surface.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things people don't realize around here is the vast amount of wildlife that's here. We think, all right, we have clams, crabs, fluke, striped bass, bluefish, things that people go fishing for, maybe go crabbing for, find on the beach. But, sharks, we talk about sharks. We've tagged things 14 different species of sharks here on Long Island.
It's unbelievable.
Again, and all the big ones, all the ones that, the white shark, it's a nursery ground here on Long Island. Then you go to whales and dolphins. People don't realize that you can sit on the beach and watch whales swimming by. It's a common occurrence. Yesterday, a couple days ago, driving home from work, there was a bald eagle sitting on the Osprey platform right in front of Edgewater on Montauk Highway there. And honestly, everybody just drove right by. Nobody paid attention. But I posted that picture this morning, and everybody got super excited. Oh my God, eagles! Nobody saw that eagle because no one was paying attention. I think that's the biggest part. Is for my job, at least through Fish Guy, through Stony Brook, everything I do is just to get people to open their eyes and just appreciate the stuff that's here.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we used to get told, we had to save the rainforest in South America. We have to save the Great Barrier Reef. We have to save Africa. Yeah, all these places need saving, but so does our backyard. So does Shinnecock Bay, Peconic Bay. And I think if we just got more in that mindset of appreciating our backyard and caring about our backyard, we wouldn't have to care about the Amazon because the people of the Amazon would care about their backyard.
Right.
And I think it would just make it like life a lot easier for all of us to do that. So that's kind of what my role is, trying to just get people excited about the cool stuff that's here.
Talk about some of the cool stuff that's here.
Yeah. I mean, just earlier this week, I got some photos. I haven't posted them yet, but I got some photos of a peregrine falcon that was actually dive bombing 3 great egrets.
Those are little
Yeah,
feisty,
they're about the size
awesome.
of a crow, but they're the fastest bird, one of the fastest animals on the planet.
That's kind of bold.
Yeah, and it just kept dive bombing these 3 egrets, and I pulled over, I sat there, I watched it. It didn't care that I was there. I got a cell phone picture. That's how close it was. But again, cars go by, didn't pay attention, and I guarantee most of the people that passed would have loved to have seen a peregrine falcon.
Yeah, because they're not as common. They're sort of rare. I remember seeing a peregrine falcon and talking to a birder because I explained what this bird was, and Jen Murray was like, "Oh, that's a peregrine falcon." And then I talked to a birder, and they were like, "Wow, that's a more rare sight."
Well, peregrines, just like osprey, eagles, and many other birds, were affected by DDT. So, their populations plummeted. Currently, I don't believe peregrine falcons are even listed as endangered or threatened anymore. Their populations have made a return. This time of year, you see more of them because they are passing through. But there is one that's been hanging out the Ponquag Bridge for the last few years that has bands. And I was able to finally get a picture of the band. And it was banded in 2019 in Cape May, New Jersey. And it hangs out around Ponquag Bridge and the inlet, terrorizing birds because they eat birds. Yeah. But again, they're here. Just did not common like a gull.
And DDT no longer an issue, but there does continue to be issues with poisons and birds of prey and other wildlife. I think just this week
Mike
I saw
Bettini.
a photo. Yes,
Yeah, Mike Bettini just posted about an eagle.
bald eagle.
Bald eagle was picked
Yeah.
up somewhere on the East End. I don't remember exactly where, but the results came back that it died from a rat poison, pretty
That
much.
is so common. We see that all the time at the hospital.
Yeah.
Rodenticide poisoning.
Yeah. People don't realize the effects that has.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no one wants rats or mice in your house.
You're killing everything,
But
though.
yeah, you're killing everything by
It's
putting out that poison.
Traveling up the food chain.
So what can people do, to change this narrative?
Well, being better educated, seeing pictures like that on, of that eagle, bald eagle, that everybody's like, oh my God, I've never seen an eagle. I'd love to see an eagle. And then they see a picture of one that was in their backyard, dead from rat poison.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then, maybe they were innocently putting out rat poison, but now they'll know. They'll tell their friends. It's just about spreading the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. People might not want crabgrass or weeds in their backyard, and they put down herbicides, not thinking it's going into the groundwater, or they get run off and it goes into the creek. I don't think they want to poison the creek. And what Chris does a lot of, and another big mission, I think, of all of us, is just that constant education,
Yes.
especially as we have this constant revolving door of new people coming in. They need to know about this.
Yeah.
We have to be better educators. We sit here and we take stuff for granted. I know not to put poison down. I know not to release balloons. But how many people just don't? And no fault of their own. They just haven't been told or haven't learned or haven't read, or, someone's got to teach them.
Yes.
And that's, I think, one of the things we have to do as educators is teach people. I mean, when I first started posting about balloons, so many people were like, I just never thought about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, they should have, but sometimes you don't make that connection.
I think it's because the first time you have released a balloon is when you're a child, and you don't even understand how anything works. Right. It goes into the sky and then you don't see it again. It goes up into space. People are thinking of things from the view of a child, and maybe it's that's staying there. But the truth of the matter is, no, these things are ending up in our waters. They're ending up on our beaches. They're killing animals and of all types.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to, I still do this just on my spare time, but I used to volunteer to look for cold stun sea turtles, which I'll just kind of give a plug.
Yes,
if you're
please do.
walking, especially your northwest facing beaches right now, when these winds pick up and the temperature drops, that's when some of our sea turtles will wash ashore cold stunned. So please call. It's the
New York Marine Rescue Center,
Yeah.
631-369-9829.
But yeah, so please keep an eye out. Report those. A lot of times they are alive. But my story is, when I was doing that, I saw this big tangled thing up in the rack line, and I walked up, and it was a balloon, and it had a tag on it, and the tag was from a school balloon release.
Oh, wow.
And you were supposed to kind of write back and say where you found it. The balloon was released in Ohio, and I found it on North Sea Beach in Little Peconic Bay. So I actually, as a kid, I wrote back, congratulations on, I think it was like a pledge to lead a drug-free lifestyle. I said, congratulations, and great decision. But, just as an education thing, your balloon ended up all the way out here.
There
so,
are other ways
thinks of other ways to celebrate.
There are other
This
ways
was-
to
Yeah.
celebrate,
Yeah.
period. I saw recently I don't remember where it was, but it was like the largest balloon release. And I was like, I felt physically ill looking at the photos
It
because
was so recent, too.
Yes.
I was like, didn't we learn our lesson by now?
Oh
I
my
couldn't believe
gosh.
that.
I do want to give another shout out to the New York State Stranding Hotline for folks that are walking on the beach, particularly our North Fork friends, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
or those
And-
along the North Shore.
Yeah, and also the north-facing shorelines of the Peconics.
Okay.
I've found a few turtles out in Fort Palm Bay, and Montauk is kind of a hot spot.
And-
Areas like Jessup's Neck, anywhere where there's like a point, it's like a big catcher's mitt. So there are hot spots for these turtles that are.
And seals as well. I think sometimes seals get in trouble. And the note, especially with turtles, is call even if you think that the turtle has passed, because cold stunned sea turtles often look deceased. So 631-369-9829. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour, so we're going to close the conversation and thank Peconic Bay Keeper Pete Topping, Fish Guy Photos Chris Papero, and Evelyn Alexander Wildlife Rescue Center's Grace Natali with Flower the chicken. I can't wait to find out where this purse chicken ends up, for joining us here on the Heart of the East End with Gianna Volpe as we continue our Forces of Nature coverage here on WLIWFM and WNET Group's special collection exploring issues affecting our natural world and sustainability with community leaders, experts, artists, and viewers like you, donating to WLIW.org/radio from the bottom of the Heart of the East End. Thank you all for all you do for our East End. And you're listening to WLIWFM